Your marketing can work exactly the way you asked for it to work, but sometimes you can still end up building a business that you either can't sustain, that you don't like, or one that creates a lot of overwhelm and resentment. And I know that's not a fun or sexy answer to many of the things that people think of when they think of marketing, because we've been taught to celebrate that demand is always good news. More people watching, more people asking, more people buying. And ultimately, that's what we wanted, but not at the expense of every sales call or another custom proposal, another decision, another process. And at that point, more demand is not automatically growth. Sometimes it creates this pressure cooker. And marketing definitely creates demand. Your business model decides what the demand requires, and then the capacity determines whether the promise survives that delivery. So I really want to talk about this in this episode. So by the end of this episode, I want you to be able to look at your business and identify whether your next growth move is to create more demand, if you have to redesign your business model, or if you have to expand your capacity. Because if you diagnose the wrong problem, you can spend the next 6 months marketing harder and make the real problem worse. Ask me how I know.
Booked and unbothered, confidence and courage, mindset and messy little moves of entrepreneurship.
Welcome to the Booked and Unbothered podcast, the podcast for high-value women navigating mindset, marketing, and messy middle moves of entrepreneurship. Here is where we turn clarity into cash and presence into power. I'm your host, Yarden Carroll, mother to 3 amazing boys, wife, storyteller, and brand engineer. Mic on? Let's get into it.
I want to talk about how I diagnose constraint and how that can make you or break you in business. So if you're new here, I want to welcome you to the Booked and Unbothered podcast. This podcast is for experienced coaches and consultants who are solving high value problems. And here we navigate marketing, mindset, and messy middle moves, anything required to really build a profitable business without losing yourself in the process. And I'm your host, Yarden Carroll, and I help underpositioned experts not only take what they know and turn it into what they want to be known for, but I help them with packaging their expertise into a signature offer that people can understand, that they value, and that they want to buy. This is part 3 of a 4-part series. In part 1, we talked about why high-ticket buyers hesitate, even when they know, like, and trust you. And I introduced the crown decision method and the 3 gates that a buyer has to walk through or move through, which is the head, heart, and the identity. Because sometimes let me think about it is not a price objection. Sometimes it's about who has to make the decision, or does it make sense to the buyer? Does this person not trust themselves enough to make that decision? Then in part 2, we went deeper into what's happening in the current state of the coaching and consulting industry. And we took it further than just the can I trust this coach or consultant? And we asked a deeper question, why should I trust you with my specific problems? And then we talked about making your thinking and your judgment, methodology, and positioning easier to evaluate instead of throwing another testimonial at a sales page and hoping that that carries the whole business on its back. And those first 2 conversations really focused on what has to happen before the buyer says yes. And today, I really want to talk about what happens after your marketing and positioning do their job. Because getting chosen is not the end of the strategy. Your business still has to carry the demand that you worked so hard to create, right? So I know exactly what this experience is like because last year was my business's highest revenue year. And even saying it out loud is really complicated for me because last year, even though it was my highest grossing year, you would think that it's something that I wanted to celebrate, like, and scream at the rooftops. From the outside, it did look like I was doing everything. I was hosting these workshops. I was speaking on other people's podcasts. I was creating consistent content and I was growing and I was signing clients. And the marketing was creating opportunities and creating demand. And the business was making money. So those were the receipts. But behind the scenes, I really was so tired. And I'm not talking like I need a nap tired. I mean, the kind of tired where you're sitting with your family, but part of your brain is still inside the business. And I could be physically present, mentally thinking about the next client or the next workshop or the next thing that I had to do. And my marriage felt the distance, my children felt it. And I felt so guilty because I was building this business for my family, but I was becoming less available to the family I said I was building this business for. So for a while, I made that mean that I had a discipline problem. Maybe I needed more structure or tighter schedule, or maybe I needed a better morning routine. Because apparently waking up at 4 a.m. and doing face plunges and cold water was the new trend. And that was supposed to be the answer to my problems. Not like I was doing it, but I kept really trying to squeeze more hours out of the day that was already fully employed. And this is the part I could not see at the time. I was trying to solve a design problem with discipline. And the business model really converted almost every new opportunity into more access to me. And every client required more of me. Every workshop that I hosted, it really required a lot of my time. And I noticed, like, as the demand increased, my workload increased right along with it. And although the revenue went up, my freedom almost went away. So I had to look at that. That was not leverage. That was a lot of responsibility, a raise in my responsibility, but not a raise in my capacity. So when I had to look at what I wanted to do differently and what I wanted to create, I had to think differently, that my marketing was on point. It wasn't failing. And I think that's what the real mindfuck was, that my marketing was really doing its job, and it was successfully feeding a business model that could only grow by consuming more of me. And once I could really name that, I could finally stop asking the wrong question. And I did not need to ask, how do I get more visible, or how do I get more clients? I needed to ask, what happens inside this business when the demand is working, when the marketing is working? And that question really shifted how I wanted to approach this year. So when I say demand, I am not just talking about views or followers. Demand is attention with intent. And it is the right people recognizing the problem, trusting your perspective, and moving toward your offer. And my marketing was creating that demand, right? So when I'm talking about your marketing, I'm talking about your podcast, your email, whatever, referrals, speaking engagements. But the demand is really not the finish line. It is a promise waiting to be fulfilled. So once somebody says yes, the business has to carry everything the marketing implied would happen next. And that is where we have to stop looking at marketing as if it lives in a silo, because it doesn't. Marketing walks people through the door, but your business model really determines what happens after they come inside. Who serves them? How much access do they get to you? And what has to be customized? How long will delivery take? And can this result be repeated? And that's really why I don't believe that getting more leads should automatically be the prescription for every slow or inconsistent business or season. Sometimes, yes, you definitely need more of the right people moving towards your offer. But if people are already buying, every sale creates confusion or chaos or exhaustion, then demand is not the first thing that needs fixing. The demand has already done you a favor. And if that's the case, it's exposed the business model. And demand really only becomes growth when the business model can convert it, deliver on it, and profit from it, and rinse and repeat. And I really want to slow down here, because this is where more people hear business model and immediately start thinking course, membership, maybe not. But that's not the point when I'm talking about the business model. Your business model is the architecture, really, that's underneath the sale. And it's how the business makes money, how it delivers the result, how you support your clients, and how you use your time and attention. And the offer tells people what they're buying, but the business model really determines what fulfilling that purchase costs the business and you as a CEO or founder. And every dollar of revenue arrives attached to an obligation. It may be a call, it may be a deliverable, but sometimes it's all of the above showing up together. And that's something you have to think about. So here's the question that I had to learn to ask, especially when I learned that demand was working. And then it revealed that my business model was a little shaky. So I had to lean in and ask, when one more person says yes, what has to increase? And if the answer is always my time or my availability, my emotional labor, then the business is not only selling my expertise, it's selling pieces of my capacity. So eventually, the business will run out of inventory, especially if I'm the inventory. Now, I don't want this to be misconstrued as high touch and high value is bad, because I love high touch and high value. But for someone like me, and maybe someone like you, that is not sustainable. That's not a sustainable business model. But I also don't want my business to be so automated that nobody can find a human being, or I lose proximity to my clients. So when I think about high touch or certain business models, the problem is not about proximity. The problem is promising unlimited proximity when you as a founder has limited capacity. And yes, every founder has limited capacity. Some of us just have more on our plate. Your business model has to fit your life and your capacity. And I'll use me as an example. I'm a mom and I'm a wife. I'm raising 3 boys. My youngest son is autistic, and I still have my day job. And I built my business before work, after work, sometimes on my lunch breaks, on the weekends. And I don't have the time or the capacity to constantly be available. So I'm not giving you random background information on me. This is really more about my environment and how it operates and how my business has to operate. Because ultimately, my business has to fit my life and it has to fit my capacity. My real life is not an inconvenience that gets ignored because of my business. My real life is one of the main reasons that my business exists. So when I think about why I started my business, I did not start a business so clients could receive premium versions of me and my family got whatever was left over. I started it because I wanted more freedom. I wanted to create more impact. I wanted to create a legacy. But I wanted to be present for my husband and my family. And I want my boys to see what's possible. But I also want them to experience me while I'm in the building phases. And those things really matter when I make the decisions about growth. So when I'm talking about capacity cannot just mean empty blocks on my calendar. It has to be about, yes, it's about my time, but it's also about my energy. It's about my support, my systems, and what's my emotional bandwidth in the season that I'm actually living in. So 2 people can have the same number of hours in completely different capacity because that's life. But we have to acknowledge that does not mean you're less ambitious, especially as women, us working women, moms. And I need us to stop doing that to ourselves, where we think our capacity is a character flaw, but it can be a business constraint. And constraints can be designed around and protected. But first, we have to tell the truth about our capacity, right? And your capacity is not the ceiling on your vision. It's really the truth your current business model has to be built around. And that's where my engineering background and brain and system brain really takes over, because I have spent more than 16 years looking at these systems and these loads. And as a utility designer, I'll give you an example or some context that when demand increases, we do not just celebrate and hope that the system is going to figure it out. Increased demand really becomes a design question. Can the system carry the load safely and reliably? Where's the constraint? And what needs to be either redistributed, upgraded, or reinforced? So that's what happened when I burned myself out last year. Those are the exact questions I had to ask at the beginning of the year. Where is the constraint? What needs to be reinforced and redistributed? And if we think about that example, you can't keep placing more load on a system and just watch it struggle. You need to reassess the design. And you can't slap some inspirational quote or more effort on a transformer and increase the demand. That is ridiculous, especially if you're in the utility industry or an electrical engineer. That would be ridiculous and probably really expensive. But a lot of entrepreneurs do this to themselves, especially moms, high achieving women. We copy marketing strategies of somebody with a different capacity, a different life, or someone who has a team, and then we can't sustain it and we beat ourselves up. But sometimes the system is carrying more load than it was designed to hold. And that's not about discipline or motivation. That was really what was happening last year in my highest grossing year, 2025. And I can see growth differently. Growth is not how much demand you can generate. I think of it a lot differently. Growth is really how much demand your business can absorb, what can you deliver on and profit from without stealing from the life and the capacity that it was really supposed to support, right? So that's how I had to shift my mindset around it. So I really want you to think differently about where you are, what season you're in, what's your capacity in your business model. So before you decide that you need more leads or you need to get more visible, I really want you to run what I call a business load test, especially if you are a mom or a wife and you're still trying to build a business while working. The business load test is really about 3 questions. So the first question is about demand. What is my marketing actually asking the market to do? Don't worry about how many people liked it. You got to wonder, are the right people finding you? Do they understand the nuance of the problem and the solution that you solve? And are they taking a meaningful step toward a specific offer? And if they are not, then yes, that's when demand becomes the constraint. Okay. But if people are interested, if they're booking calls, if they're buying, then I want you to go to the second question, which is around your business model. What has to increase every time a person says yes? Think about your systems. Think about your time. Think about the support or resources. Do these people get more access to you? Does the process produce a consistent result? Or do you have to reinvent every client you get? Okay. And if each sale creates a disproportionate complexity or some type of chaos, then you know you have a business model constraint. And then I want you to ask the third question is, how many promises can this business keep well? And I mean well, not barely, not good. I'm saying well. How much can the current system fulfill without quality dropping, without your peace diminishing, or the people you love getting the leftover version of you? If the model works and the system is simply full, that is a capacity restraint. And you really need to either hire, automate, or simplify your business delivery in some way and change the level of access. I don't know if it means raising your price, converting from one-to-one to group. The answer really depends on your business. But the important thing is that you make the decision for the problem that you actually have. So if demand is weak, strengthen your marketing and your positioning. If demand is present, but every sale creates chaos, then you got to redesign the business model. And if the model is sound and the system is full, you got to expand the capacity or limit the demand until you can carry more and sustain it. So I really don't want you to prescribe more marketing to a business model problem or vice versa, a business model problem to a capacity constraint. Okay. You have to really diagnose them first, diagnose them, tweak it, and iterate as you go, and then grow. So I want to be clear about something before I close. And I'm not telling you to want less or be less ambitious. I really want you to grow and make money and create impact and become known for the brilliance that you've spent years developing. But what I'm really telling you is you have to build a business capable of holding everything you've been asking for. Because the point of marketing is not to make you more visible inside a business that you quietly hate. And the point is really not to create the right demand for a business model that can't deliver the result. But you really got to protect the quality of your work, your reputation, and your capacity. Because your ambition can be unlimited. Your availability is not. Okay, so you really got to build accordingly. And if this conversation made you think about your growth differently, then please join my newsletter. And that is where I really share the behind the scenes decisions, the harder truths, and the lessons underneath the lessons that I really don't think is suitable for the podcast. And I'll be sharing more about what I had to simplify, what I had to stop measuring as success, and how I'm rebuilding my business around the demand that I want, the business model that I believe in, and the capacity that I actually have. And you can join Author Mike newsletter using the link that's in the show notes. But until next time, please stay booked, stay unbothered, and make sure the business you are building can actually carry the life and the success that you've been asking for.